Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it was sent to me by our dear sister. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us this translation. The translation of that message reads like this: Hello brother Nashi, can you please post my story as anonymous? I have my own story that I want to share with you, and my story goes on like this. When I came here to South Africa, I then started working as a maid, and I was able to take care of myself at that time when I still had a permanent job. Then there was a time whereby I didn't have a permanent job. I then started working at different places, and sometimes I could not even find any work at all. So I then spoke with this other woman. She then gave me an idea. This woman that I spoke with, she was staying in that same location where I am staying. So she said that if I could go to town, then she gave me some directions, and she told me that there was this other place where people used to go and market at this other certain robot. She said if you go to that place where I have directed you, maybe you might be lucky and get a job. So I went there. The first day that I went there, I was not even sure, because I was someone who had never liked the idea of going and just standing at the robot looking for work, not trusting the person who was going to pick you up. I was always afraid. But now that I was really desperate, because it was nearly month end and I was in need of money here in South Africa, I had to settle some bills like paying rent, and I needed money for food. And on that same month, I needed to send my mom, who was back home in Zim, some money so that she can use the money to take care of my kids, since my kids, they were staying with my mother. And there was a guy that I was dating. He was staying in the same location where I was staying. This guy was also from Zim, but he was quite a stingy man when it came to money. Whenever I would ask for any kind of financial assistance from him, then he'll say to me that you are in this relationship only for the sake of money. And so I then started working for myself and taking care of myself. So the first day when I went to that place where that woman had directed me to go to look for work, I was feeling really embarrassed, because this was like the first time for me to do it. You know that those people that stand at the robots whilst they are looking for piece jobs, they are very active, like they are always running around. When a car stops to pick someone, they all rush at once to that car. So I was not used to that lifestyle. I was just standing at the corner all by myself, just wishing that someone was going to stop their car and employ me. But throughout the day, there was no one that stopped so as to employ me. Then the next day, I went back. That was when I saw this other car. But this car, when I saw it, when I looked at it, I saw that the car was very familiar, and I recognized the car because it had passed through this place the previous day. And what had happened is that the owner of that car, as he was driving around, he had looked at me in an interesting way. So the next time around, when that car came again, I knew that I had seen this car before. So on that day, I had woken up very late going into town, and by the time that I had reached that place where people were looking for piece jobs, it was already late. And when I arrived at the robot, I saw that there was not a lot of people. When I asked around, that was when I was told that most of the women, they had already been picked by people who had given them a job. And there was also a police patrol. Some police vans had gone to that place, and they had picked up some people that were not properly documented. So when I arrived at that place, there were only a few women that were left behind and a lot of men. I then just stood there, just waiting and praying that someone man was going to come and pick me up and give me a piece job so that I can pay my rent and settle my bills. That was when that guy came back, and I immediately recognized his car. He then stopped, and when he stopped, he looked at me and he pointed at me. Then I walked to his car and he told me to get into his car. When I got into his car, out of respect, I opened the door, but the door at the back so that I can sit at the back seat. Then he said, no, don't do that. Come and sit with me here in front. So I then went and I sat with him just next to him on the passenger front seat. So as this guy was speaking to me, I then noticed that this guy, his accent, he was not from South Africa. So when we started driving, instead of him going straight to his place, even though he had said that he was staying very close to that place where he had picked me up, first he said that there were some things that he wanted in town, and he kept on driving and driving around until I got so much confused, because ever since that I had came here to South Africa, I had not gone around like getting to know the place. All that I knew was how to get into town and how to go back to the location where I was staying, because in most cases I will be using a bus coming from the location going to the suburbs where I was working. So when this guy kept on driving and driving around, I got so confused. I didn't even know where we were. That was when he said that we had arrived at the place where he was staying, and the place was a very good place. It was in a gated community. So for you to enter into that gated community, you had to sign up some papers at the gate before they could let you in. And then, my brother, what happened is that when we got in, he then showed me the place where he was staying, and he told me that I was here to do some cleaning in the house. Then I had to wash some clothes. But the most important part why he had hired me was for me to clean his house. He wanted me to clean his house thoroughly, and that was when I started sweeping around. That was when that man got out of his house, and when he got out of his house, he was just chilling. When this man was just chilling outside, I saw that he was doing something that was really funny. His behavior was really funny because he kept on scratching his head. What he will do is that he would push his hand into that wool hat that he was wearing. So at first I thought that maybe he had itchy hair or just dandruff, because he kept on scratching and scratching his head, just pushing his hand into that wool hat. So as he kept on doing this, I then noticed that there was something that fell off from his head, and when I looked closely, Brother Nashi, I saw that the thing that had fallen from this man's head, it was a worm. You know, there are those fat white garden worms. That is the kind of a worm that fell off from that man's head. So Brother Nashi, from the moment that this worm fell from his head, he then looked at me. I then quickly turned around, just pretending as if I had not seen that worm falling from his head. Then, Brother Nashi, I continued doing my job, just cleaning around. He then got up from where he was sitting, and he told me that he wanted to go somewhere. So he left me behind as I was busy cleaning. And when he came, Brother Nashi, he had some juices and he prepared some breakfast for me. Here in South Africa, there is a juice that is called Crush. So he gave me one bottle and he told me that I had to drink it with the breakfast that he had prepared for me. Brother Nashi, when I started drinking that Crush juice, it was orange flavored juice, but when I was drinking it, it was extra sweet, tasting very different. It was too sweet, but I kept on drinking it. After I had finished drinking that juice, that was when I started to feel that I wanted to be with a man. I just wanted to have sex with any man. It didn't matter who it was. So as I was busy ironing that man's clothes, that was when I saw that he came and he stood behind me and he started touching me, and I responded. He then told me that he wanted me to kneel down, and when I would be kneeling down, he wanted me to suck his manhood. He wanted me to give him a blowjob. Brother Nashi, when I was about to do that, when I was holding his manhood, I then noticed that out of his manhood there was this other discharge that was coming out. When I looked at that discharge that was coming out of his manhood, it was thick and it was not a normal discharge because the color, it was not a normal discharge. It was like this man, he had an STI. That was when I said, no, I cannot do this. So I got up on my feet. When I got up on my feet, he was surprised and he said to me, "What did you say? What did you see? Did you see anything?" And I pretended as if I didn't see anything. I just said, "No, I cannot do this." From there on, Brother Nashi, he then started wearing his clothes and I wore my clothes as well. And he said that, "I want to pay you for the job that you have done. You have completed your job, so I am going to pay you." He ended up paying me extra money, more than the amount that he had promised to give me. Brother Nashi, after he had given me the money, he said, "I want to go and drop you at the location where you are staying." I was really feeling afraid because of the things that I had seen. First, this guy scratching his head, then a worm falling from his head, then the next time there was discharge that was coming out of this man's manhood that was not a normal discharge. So I was really scared of him. I then lied to that guy and I told him that there was this other boss of mine that was supposed to come and pick me up at that same place where he had picked me up. So he went with me to the robots and he dropped me off. And Brother Nashi, when he left me there, I wanted to run away. He then told me that he was going to come and check me out because he was going to attend some businesses in town, but he would return back and he said that he wanted to give me something. When he dropped me off at the robots, within a short period of time, I saw his car again. He was just passing through that place, but I saw that he was just checking me if he could see that I was still there. That was when, Brother Nashi, I felt so much afraid. I looked around and I saw that nearby there was this other service station, and at that service station there was a taxi that was parked there. It was getting refilled at that service station. It was getting some fuel at that service station. So I rushed to that service station and I just got into that taxi without asking anyone that I found sitting in that taxi. I didn't ask anyone where this taxi was going or where it was coming from. I was really feeling scared. I just remained quiet. Then when the taxi driver started driving, I saw that this taxi then took me to a far off place, so much that I had to use 2 more taxis just to get back into town. And after getting back into town, I had to use another taxi so that I can return to the location where I was staying. In total, I had to use 3 taxis. The small challenge that I face right now is that whenever I try to drink that juice that is called Crush, I just feel so much nauseous. I don't know if it is because of the things that I saw coming out of that man's manhood or what it is. I just feel like I want to vomit whenever I try to drink that juice. But this is my own experience, and people need to be very careful. Like if you are someone that goes out marketing at the robots, you need to be very careful of who is going to take you into their car, because you never know. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received from our dear sister. Then we had to give you this translation.